0 kills, 0 deaths, 0 assists. It's where we all start when we load up a game of League, but we never stay there for very long. League of Legends is a game of constant action. Thousands of keystrokes, hundreds of decisions, and just one tiny mistake can make or break your chances of victory. Imagine for a second that you made it your mission to avoid all of that action and finish the game right where you started, 0-0-0. Now think about how much harder it would be to actually win that game while contributing absolutely nothing. If you played League, chances are you have never once done this. Now imagine that you're a professional player. As one of the best in the world, you get paid real money to win games of League of Legends. This is your job. Surely winning a game while going 0-0-0 should never be possible, no matter the circumstances. And yet, it turns out even pro players go missing every once in a while. In order for a game like this to happen, something needs to go terribly, terribly wrong. Each of these games is deeply and profoundly strange, and when put together, they tell a story of mysteries and match fixing, of blunders and base races, of unsung heroes and world champions. You will see things that, for better or worse, you have never seen before on Summoner's Rift. What does it take to pull off a feat of mediocrity on this scale? And more importantly, which pro player is most worthy of a missing pane? Now, a player going missing like this is incredibly rare. Here's every instance of a player going 0-0-0 in a win in the history of competitive League of Legends. It's happened just 30 times, and no player has done it more than once. And believe me when I say this, you will not find a weirder sample of 30 League games anywhere. At the time of writing this script, there are exactly 124,271 games of competitive League notable enough to be recorded on Leaguepedia. That means that a player puts up the triple zeros and wins just once every 4,142 games, which, I cannot stress this enough, is a lot of games. This phenomena does not have an established name, so we're going to have to come up with one. My personal favorites are a PvE game to match a cardio game in the NBA, where someone just runs around constantly without putting up any other stats, triple zeros, and a triple donut as suggested by a patron. If you think you got a better one, let us know in the comments. At the end of the video, we'll also be giving out the very first MIP, or Most Invisible Player Award, to the person that we think contributed the very least, positive or negative, to their team's victory. Julian and I have assembled a list of suspects, and we're going to be going through them one by one to find the very worst offender. Let's start at the beginning with the very first 0-0-0 game of all time.
League has been around as an esport since 2011, but for reasons unknown, we didn't get our first PvE game until December 2015 at the World Cyber Arena in China. The WCA was an invitational tournament made up of LPL and Tier 2 teams organized by the Yinchuan city government. The game we're concerned with is Game 2 of the third place decider between Legend Dragon and 2144 Danmu Gaming. It's a fitting first entry as it raises more questions than answers. Legend Dragon rolls Danmu to go up 2-0 in the series, but you'll notice that somehow in a game where his team secured 15 kills, LD support Ysera manages to go 0-0-0. And it's not like all the action was topside. His ADC was involved in 9 of those kills, but he wasn't around for any of them. Not to mention that he's playing Trundle, the champion that Ysera already went 1-1-13 on in Game 1. Trundle can pretty easily pick up assists with his pillar from very far away, or at least fire the dot from his ranged ultimate. He also has the item Face of the Mountain, which allows him to place a point-and-click shield on himself and a nearby ally. So it appears Ysera didn't successfully pillar, ult, use his active items, or even auto-attack to contribute to a kill in this whole game. How did he manage to go a whole game without being even a screen away from someone who died? Let's check the tape, shall we? Oh, there is no tape. That's awkward. Try as we might, we couldn't dig up anything else about this game. Not a VOD, not a gold graph, not a Reddit thread, not even a screenshot. A VOD is linked on Leaguepedia, but the YouTube channel it was on has long since been deleted. It looks like the Yinchuan city government got tired of League of Legends. The sad reality is that many VODs from the game's early years from China, Korea, and even the West have been lost to the sands of time, with almost zero chance of ever getting them back. A small third-party tournament in China that took place a decade ago? I knew it would be gone before I clicked the link, it just didn't stand a chance. And so the details of how exactly ysera pulled off this feat of mediocrity will remain forever shrouded in mystery, disqualifying him from MIP contention. If we're going to convict someone of crimes against League of Legends, they have to be guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So without video evidence, we're going to have to throw out the case against ysera, as well as every other game we don't have a VOD for. There are some weird ones like this game from 2017 in the CDLS, the secondary league for Latin America South. A team called Last Group, who would go on to finish last in their group, take on a team called Dark Horse, who would start 3-3 but go on to win the whole thing. No, that's not a joke. I think the scriptwriters may have been a bit too on the nose with that one. Game 2 of this series clocks in at just 10 minutes and 15 seconds. This is the 5th shortest competitive league game of all time, and Last Group's mid laner goes 0-0-0. This game makes 0 sense, and no VOD exists. So my best guess would be that since the CDLS was an online tournament, one of Dark Horse's players, probably their support, disconnected from the game and was unable to reconnect. According to the rulebook, the game can't be remade after 2 minutes and can't be declared for either team until after 20 minutes. Since each team only gets 10 minutes of pause time, it looks like when the player couldn't reconnect in time, they were just forced to play it out 4v5 and opened mid. But unless a VOD surfaces, we'll never know for sure.
So what you're saying is, we don't know shit.
Well, hang on, it's not like we've learned absolutely nothing. We know a little bit.
But it hasn't gotten us very close to finding our most invisible player. We don't have all day, but don't worry, viewers. I have something much better prepared for you.
Really?
What is crazier than a 0-0-0 Trundle? A 0-0-0 Malzahar. That's gotta be a war crime. To start with though, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is, there is a VOD for this game. The bad news is, I had to watch it. It's the summer finals of Challengers Korea 2016, and everyone's two least favorite bottom feeders, Sbenu's Sonic Boom and Kongdu Monster, are fighting to see who will get a better shot at finishing 10th place in the LCK next split. Kongdu Monster are up 2-0, so Sbenu backs against the wall, decide to bench their mid laner Rem and put in their coach, Sassin, a player who has been terrible and will continue to be terrible for the rest of his short career. Looking at the scoreboard, the first thing that stands out is that Lehens finished this game with 6 blasting wands. The second thing is that Sassin managed the triple donut on Malzahar, something I think is even more impressive than ysera's Trundle game, because not only was this game 10 minutes longer than ysera's, not only does Malz have a big AoE silence and one of the most powerful point-and-click lockdown ultimates in the game, but he doesn't even need to click on people to get assists. You could E a minion by mistake and it could bounce to someone. Hell, you could ult the wrong dude and someone could accidentally walk through the AoE underneath your ult and die, and it would count. Even a rogue Voidling auto attack would be enough. But all he does this whole game is just sit there and push mid, and I am not exaggerating. At 18 minutes, what starts as a 2v2 skirmish in the bot lane quickly evolves into World War III as everyone comes down to join the party. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Someone is missing from this picture. Sassin, my guy, your top laner just hit a filthy 1v5 Gnar ultimate, and you are nowhere to be found. If any ranged character had been in the same zip code right here, this would have been an ace. And yes, I know you got Ghost and not TP, but you are in base when this fight starts with that Ghost up. Your jungler and the enemy mid laner walk all the way down from mid lane hand in hand and make it there on time. Sassin completes his base at 18:28, about 10 seconds into the skirmish, before walking back and forth on the spawn platform for another 5 seconds, making up his mind and running mid instead of bot. You can literally see him choose to do nothing. Like, please man, there is a team fight going on. Just use an ability anywhere in the general vicinity of anybody. I am begging you. He narrowly escapes the fight as Sbenu disengage, and wait a second, where's he going? Is he gonna... They're just gonna let him? No way.
자, 이거 이 한 방으로 오히려 상대의 무리한 판단으로 스베누 이번 세트 잡아내면서 네. 이거 막을 힘이 없죠. 전원전사입니다. 결국 스웨드가 벼락 끝에서 살아나면서 2대1로
패스까지는 만들어가네요.
2대1로 따라 붙습니다.
Alright, Sassin, clearly I wasn't familiar with your game. His diversion helped Spenu win the 4v5, steal Baron, and end the game. Yes, most of that game did suck, but the ending was hilarious. And you know what? Not only did Sassin have a legitimate reason for going 0-0-0, but going 0-0 actually secured his team the win. What a guy! Despite his rancid start, that performance is good enough to earn Sassin an official MIP pardon. 10 out of 10, no notes. Sassin's player cam is up as the Nexus falls, and you know what? I can't read lips or speak Korean, but I'm pretty sure I know what he's laughing about. Unfortunately, Sassin cannot sustain the magic as Spenu dropped Game 4 off the back of his 0-4-0 cast-in performance, bringing his KDA the series down to 0-4-0. Kangdu Monster win their way back into the LCK for 2017, finish 10th, and get relegated. They are, as far as I'm aware, the only team in the history of professional League of Legends to be promoted and relegated 3 distinct times, finishing last place each time and making almost 0 roster changes throughout. Truly a hallmark of consistency. But Sassin isn't the only player who we need to pardon for contributions that aren't reflected on the scoreboard. In the LVP Superliga, Giants Melitza demonstrates how to make the play of the game without having a single kill, death, or assist. He survives an all-in attempt from the enemy Lucian and Zilean, trading flashes and bringing Lucian to half health. In League of Legends, you can only earn an assist if you damage an enemy within 10 seconds of their death. But despite what the scoreboard says, we know that Melitza is absolutely the reason that Draven is able to score his first big cash-in with an ultimate snipe from across the map. And we weren't exaggerating, he was literally given play of the game by the desk afterwards. Melitza, you are hereby pardoned for an uncredited assist. In the Turkish Academy League, 1907 Fenerbahce Esports top laner Knock finishes the game 0-0-0 on Grave. Surprisingly, Knock is actually present and active in a lot of these fights, it's just that none of the targets he hits end up dying. He is a bit late to the last team fight of the game, but it's an excused absence. He was solo securing his team the Dragon Soul. These performances teach us that sometimes doing nothing can actually be a good thing. Case in point, this Infinity Esports game from 2017. Their opponents, Predators, are drafting a comp with very solid team fighting, so Infinity decides to split push and counterpick with a late Fiora that Relic plays to perfection. He spends the whole game drawing pressure and quickly scaling to the point where nobody can match him in a sideline. Now, a lot of top laners in this situation would either overplay their hand and get caught out, or get cocky and start walking into teamfight situations where they aren't anywhere near as strong. But Relic understands his role to a T and calmly owns his side of the map. He knows that even though his team is down 4 kills, they're still up gold and can simply run interference for him while he farms towers in the side lane. At 30 minutes in, Predators get so frustrated at being pulled around the map that they commit to a horrible Baron Force 4v4 and get wiped with ease. To add insult to injury, Relic is so strong that he ignores Jarvan and takes bot lane tower and inhib anyway all by himself, plus the mid lane inner on the way out. Relic continues to be a quiet menace on the bottom side of the map and puts Jarvan in an impossible position. His team can't win 4v4 against a Baron Siege, and he can't win 1v1 against Relic. But if he leaves to try to force a 5v4, Fiora could just end the game. Damned if you don't, damned if you do. And when the chips are down, Jerome decides to give up the base, TP into the fight, and hope Infinity make a huge mistake. Predictably, this does not happen, and Relic wins the game single-handedly on a backdoor left wide open by Predators. So yes, Relic did end this game 0-0-0, but you could never say he was invisible. He was probably the most impactful player on his team. This is by far the most cut and dry example, but it opens up another category of pardons we like to call split pushers doing their job. That puts Relic out of the running for MIP, along with these other games where someone did something similar.
Soul's gotta go. Look for something. He jumps in and he's down before he can even throw out the ultimate. Hoon says, please let me get an assist. Anything, no. 0-0-0 for Hoon to end the game because it was all about the bot lane.
However, among these seemingly run-of-the-mill top lane games, one stands head and shoulders above the rest, and it's another Infinity Esports game. The year after Relic's Fiora performance, Infinity qualified for Worlds 2018. Led by their star Colombian mid laner Cotopaco, they took games off both EDG and eventual semi-finalist G2 Esports. After Worlds, Riot expanded the LATAM scene and added new amateur regional leagues in various countries, including the Golden League in Colombia. So the Costa Rican organization, at the request of their star player, Cotopaco, spin up Infinity Esports Colombia to try and find their team's next hero. And boy do they. His name is LeftAlone. In their first split as a team, Infinity Colombia find themselves down 0-2 to Vault Esports in the spring quarterfinals. LeftAlone is this team's star top laner, and he loves to carry. In Game 3, he lands some clutch barrel chains on Gangplank to set up a base defense where Infinity go Nexus to Nexus to stay alive in the series.
Contra el LeftAlone, cae también justamente todo el daño en contra de Unicorn y cae la torreta de Nexo, se va a acabar esto Lenor, lo quiere terminar, Infinity quiere cerrar la partida, se va a salvar Bowl, no acaba, terminó la partida con absolutamente nada, Infinity se la...
Infinity has a chance at a reverse sweep, but it won't be easy. Vault lock in Sion on R4, opening the door for a top lane counterpick. How do Infinity respond? A top laner named LeftAlone locks in Yorick in an elimination game. Do you think he's going to split push? As the game begins, mid and bot lane fall behind, and LeftAlone figures out pretty quickly that he is his team's sole hope of victory. He's ahead in CS and takes a few towers to keep the gold lead within reach, but it's going to be tough for Infinity to win if they can't get some kills. At 16 minutes, when he completes his Trinity Force, LeftAlone makes a bold call with some extra gold and buys something weird. This is a Raptor Cloak, an obscure component item long since removed from the game. It's not very useful on its own, but it does tell us a lot about LeftAlone's state of mind at this moment, because Raptor Cloak builds into an obscure item called Zizzarat Portal. Now, if you don't remember, Zizzarat Portal is an old item that allows you to place a portal anywhere on the map that would spawn Voidlings. Voidlings that would absolutely send it into the nearest enemy tower and explode, doing a nice chunk of damage. This is not a common item on Yorick. He was picked 94 times in 2019, and Portal was built in just 5 of them, almost always as a 5th or 6th item in the extreme late game. It does not give him AD or attack speed or any of the other stats that Yorick really likes. He is building this item for one reason and one reason alone: to kill towers. LeftAlone completes this item faster than anyone else all year in a game that his team is losing badly. He is completely selling out on the split push. There is no room for error. He will need to play this absolutely perfect. At 21 minutes, LeftAlone's solo mission nets him yet another tower, but as he heads back to base, his team gets caught out yet again in the mid lane, setting up Vault Esports for an easy Baron take. LeftAlone completes his back, finishes his portal, and instantly TPs topside to threaten a backdoor. Not only does he get Sion's TP here, but he forces Vault to back off from the Baron, sending the message that not only can he not be ignored, but Sion stands no chance against him in the 1v1. At this point, he decides to really commit and puts it in park in bot lane. He will not step foot in another lane for the rest of the game. At this point, Infinity are just waiting for Vault to overplay their hand, and at 27 minutes, they do just that and force Baron, losing both Pyke and their bot lane inhib, as well as a Nexus tower a few minutes later. This man cannot be stopped. With just one tower standing in their way, Infinity are suddenly just one mistake away from a crazy upset.
Bastante cerca estaba Waze para intentar. ¡Ay!
Conectó.
La descarga de tiros certeros ante un Sainz que parecía que escapaba y ahora todo el control lo imprimen en contra de Waze. Caía también justamente un inhibidor más. Vamos a ver porque era el inhibidor del carril inferior el que nuevamente nacía, pero no lo dejaba justamente el jugador Jonny. La segunda de Nexo que cae, el inhibidor que cae el Nexo, cae absolutamente todo y es partida para Infinity.
You just watched a man spearhead a comeback and put his entire team on his back without contributing to a single kill. All he needed was to be left alone. And the broadcast agrees, awarding him MVP and giving us this amazing graphic. Do Infinity Colombia come back and complete the reverse sweep in Game 5? Let me ask you a better question. Does it even matter? I am confident that this is the greatest 0-0 game ever played. LeftAlone receives not only an official pardon, but also the title of the most top laner of all time.
Now, it was at this point in our investigation that Manny and I realized we may be going about this all wrong. We originally suspected that there was a very good shot our MIP would be a top laner. Of the 32 players to ever post a triple donut, half of them are top laners, the same as every other role in the game combined. But as we've just realized, many of these top laners were just being top laners. This got us thinking, if top lane is the role that you'd expect a PvE game from based on how the role functions, what would you at least expect it from? And that answer came to us very quickly: jungle. But no jungler has ever had a 0-0-0 game, and if they did, I'm pretty sure they'd be a lock for MIP. So going down the list, we also see a few supports and mid laners, but what really stuck out to us was the second most common role: AD carry. ADC is different from top lane. Your whole job is to right click, be in team fights, and do damage. Carry is literally in your name, so to not be involved in a kill at all sounds pretty egregious. Trouble is, of the 9 ADC games on this list, only 3 of them actually have VODs available. And the very first ADC suspect we actually have a VOD for is none other than Loungani himself, the legendary Keith McBrief. Our first North American match comes courtesy of the 8th and 9th place teams Echo Fox and yes, Team Liquid in summer 2017. In classic Froggen era fashion, this game was not very exciting, but it did feature both Loungani and the guy he famously subbed in for, Piglet, dropping triple zeros. You can sum this game up super quickly. Nothing happens for the first 10 minutes before Acadian gets bored and dies walking into the enemy jungle. The teams trade 1-for-1 mid lane, Lolo dies to a gank, and the game grinds to a halt for 10 minutes, during which Froggen manages to accrue 340 CS on Corki in under 30 minutes. TL don't have the tools to start a fight and kind of just stare at Echo Fox, while Froggen repeatedly domes them with rockets. Keith clearly gets bored and W flashes over the wall to try and get a kill, but to no avail. Echo Fox get Baron and proceed to just walk it in and kill the Nexus as TL rolls over without ever putting up a fight. Seriously, the Nexus falls with 9 people alive. TL can't even walk into the same zip code.
Keith just won a game going 0-0-0, and I'm not willing to say he played bad.
Loken secures our next PvE game on Cogmore. The special thing about this game is just how clean it is, as JDG clinically perfect games OMG in 24 minutes. After JDG sneaks Baron, OMG completely crumbles as JDG execute what has to be one of the most efficient Baron power plays of all time. 6 towers, 2 inhibs, and the Nexus in just under 3 minutes. Can't really fault the Cogmore here for the other team just rolling over and dying. This game is extra rare because not only is this a PvE game, it's also a perfect game. We ran the numbers, and while perfect games themselves are pretty rare, happening just once every 447 games, PvE games are actually much rarer with our previously discussed odds. The odds of a perfect game, where a team is dominated so thoroughly they don't get a single kill or objective, coinciding with a game where one of those dominant players doesn't register so much as an assist, gives us staggering odds of 1,843,428 to 1. At the current rate of play, that means we'll see one of these games every 216 years. What's more unlikely than that? How about 2 players going 0-0-0 in the same game? It's a double, triple donut. In week 8 of the 2018 LDL, Team Fighters bot lane of BBD and Zinmo managed to both put up a 0-0-0 scorelines in a win against a team called Scorpio Game. This is the only time in the history of competitive League of Legends that this has happened. And yes, that's BBD, not BDD. Now just looking at the scoreboard, a game like this just should not be possible. 38 minutes long and just 2 kills, but it's also 11 towers to 0, it just looks wrong. Maybe this is a bug with Leaguepedia's reporting. Nope, we were shocked to discover that the VOD for this game still exists and the scoreboard is absolutely cursed and correct. And after watching this VOD, we can confidently say that this is, without a doubt, the single most boring game of League of Legends ever played. This highly unnatural game gave rise to a natural question. Is this anomaly a result of an invisible bot lane being carried across the finish line? Or is there something more nefarious at work here? Is this fixing of some kind? It has to be said, the LDL does have a history of match-fixing scandals. In 2021, 35 LDL players, managers, and coaches were banned from the league. Now, none of the players in this game were ever officially disciplined for match fixing, but upon further review, there are a few moments in this game that look at least a little bit suspicious. 10 minutes into this game, BBD and Zinmo return to lane. The enemy bot lane is recalling in a warded bush on full vision. BBD and Zinmo are fully topped up and coming in with a BF sword advantage. It's an opportunity for a double combo on the Alistar engage. He charges forward and then just watches them finish their recall. Now this display of pacifism does look like it's building a case for a Team Fighters bot lane to earn a joint MIP, but perhaps it was reasonable given the circumstances of the game. You see, at this moment, Team Fighters top lane now has a kill and double the CS of the enemy gangplank. So why take a risk fighting when you already have such a crushing advantage elsewhere on the map? Meanwhile, Scorpio Game seems to be focused on trying to salvage the sinking ship that is top lane. It is also on fire. Both junglers repeatedly match each other on the top side of the map, and there is no attempt to gank any other lane. Nothing happens for a long time, and when I say nothing happens, I truly mean nothing happens. Nobody attempts a dragon before 20 minutes. Finally, Scorpio Game tries for a mid gank, and they are rewarded for it. They get the kill, although the minions have to finish the job for them. Unfortunately, this is the last kill of the entire game. It will take another 18 minutes for this game to end, and it will be bloodless. Watching this game, it's hard to tell whether Scorpio Game is trying to lose in peace or if they're simply just lost. It seems possible that they couldn't figure out how to engage on a team with Gnar, Olaf, Ryze with Cleanse, Tristana, and Alistar, champions that all have some kind of CC immunity, knockback, or escape tool. At 22:38, BBD walks up mid and looks a bit like he's inting, but Varus doesn't even ult him. It happens again now at 30:15. Summoners are barely ever used in this game, offensively or defensively, they might as well not exist. In fact, BBD does not use the flash a single time until a staggering 38 minutes into this game. At 34 minutes, Scorpio Game makes their final lackluster attempt to catch Ryze in the top lane. Varus finally ults but whiffs because he's too far away. This game is physically painful to watch. A minute later, in the last and only teamfight of the game, Scorpio Game arrives just in time to watch their opponents kill the Baron. Zinmo lands a 4-man combo on Alistar, but Scorpio Game have prepared for this moment. With the summoner spells they've been saving for the entire game, they're able to escape with all their members alive so that they can watch in full color as Tristana and Cannon minions claim their Nexus. As Ryze ults a couple minions into the enemy base, the VOD abruptly cuts off before the Nexus even explodes. I guess the ending of this game was just too embarrassing to preserve. So is this match fixing? Probably not. Team Fighter won the second game as well with a total of 25 kills in nearly the same amount of time, so if they were trying to lose on purpose, they did an extremely bad job. But the fact that we had to seriously ask the question, only to find that the teams were maybe just inept, is arguably worse than if they'd been doing it on purpose. As for Zinmo and BBD, I don't think we can split the award two ways. Sure, they didn't have to do much to win this game, but BBD scaled to the point where he was basically a walking tower, and Scorpio Game just refused to go anywhere near him. Can they really be considered invisible when the enemy team didn't even show up to play? We don't think so. Zinmo and BBD get pardoned by the slimmest of margins. This was an obscure tier 2 series full of players you've probably never heard of, so let's take a break from that and get a bit more mainstream. In the 15-year history of the League of Legends World Championships, 14 different top laners have hoisted the Summoners Cup. Just one player, Zeus, has done it more than once. Every other role in the game has only 10 or 11 unique winners. It's only fitting that the most volatile role in the game would see a different player win nearly every single year. But what if I told you that 15% of these top laners, 15% of them, are on our list? Looking at these 14 players, which two of them do you think have gone 0-0-0? Was it these two? I wouldn't be surprised if you thought it was. Let's see how a literal world champion makes his donuts. Gimgoon's PvE game comes at the end of the 2019 Spring Split, the year he actually won Worlds. This is Fun Plus Phoenix, who would go on to win Worlds vs Victory 5, the worst team in the LPL, and spoiler alert, the game goes exactly how you would expect. Gimgoon blows the enemy jungler's flash on an invade at 7 minutes, then at 11 minutes he's just one Vlad pulled away from a solo kill. However, the 1v1 is interrupted by the enemy Jarvan, but thanks to Jarvan lacking the flash he blew a few minutes ago, Gimgoon is able to escape to safety. This happens again 10 minutes later, this time with Tahm Kench and Victor joining the party, but Gimgoon once again escapes to safety, allowing FPX to secure the Baron. This is the backbreaker, and FPX wins the final team fight at 24 minutes before Gimgoon can complete his TP. With so many contributions, this game is definitely going straight into the uncredited assist bucket. It's honestly a perfect illustration of what Gimgoon's role on this team was. Just be as solid as possible so your teammates can play their special brand of crazy. It's fitting that FPX, the consensus weirdest team to ever win Worlds, would be the only world champs to ever clock a PvE game on their way to the cup. But this trend might actually be bigger than FPX themselves, because it turns out that 2019 was the year of the donut. As we discussed previously, we didn't get our first PvE game until 2015. We had one more in 2016, and then a major uptick over the next 4 years. With 9 PvE games, 2019 stands above all other years, something that we attribute to the diverse matter and how viable split pushing was. It was just a wild year. Remember, our 2 world finalists in 2019 were G2 Esports with perks on ADC, flexing Pyke into all 3 lanes, and an FPX roster who would routinely play shit like Nautilus, Renekton, and even Malphite mid. But just as quickly as they arrived, these games started to go away. In 2025, we had exactly 0 PvE games. Why did this sudden fall off happen? Why did it take us 5 years to get our first? While there's no way to know for sure, we think that this big gap at the beginning is due to people being too bad at the game for someone to go 0-0-0. There were just too many blunders happening across the map. That's not to say that macro has gotten worse in recent years, quite the opposite, but what we've seen is a decrease in the amount of viable strategies. Riot has made the game more and more prescriptive over the last couple of years, be that through the brute force removal of lane swaps, the introduction of you must fight here right now objectives like Atakan, or the new role quests introduced in 2026 that lock you into one spot. Back in the Wild West days of early League, there would have been mass rebellion if Riot had named some sort of correct way to play the game. Nowadays, most people feel like it's fine, myself included. The chaos of the early days eventually crystallized into the rather standardized playstyles we see out of pro teams today, leaving us with this happy medium from 2016 to 2021, where people were good enough to side lane, but not good enough that we were immune from the occasional crazy game. And with all the positive changes Riot has made in the last year to combat soft inting, going 0-0-0 may even be a punishable offense depending on the circumstances. So while the future of the PvE game doesn't seem so bright, no one can predict the future, something that Impact's story teaches us in spades. Unlike Gimgoon, Impact's triple donut took place 7 years after he won his World Championship. After completing their unprecedented LCS 4-peat, Team Liquid let go of Xmithie in the offseason and brought in Broxah. The transition hasn't been so smooth though, with TL sitting at just 4-6 coming into the weekend. With the second round robin just getting underway, this is a pivotal weekend for the rest of TL's season. But their star player Doublelift is out this weekend, with a then unknown rookie named Tactical subbing in. So what happened to Doublelift? I'll let Jad explain.
It has been such a strange and difficult year for Team Liquid so far, not having Broxah until week 4, and then losing Doublelift in week 6 to an illness that's been more severe than anything he's had in his entire playing career. He said he's never missed a scrim week due to sickness until this week.
Manny? What's the date? Did he? Never mind. Mysterious illnesses aside, TL has a game to win here. You'd expect that without Doublelift, Impact would step up and contribute more than usual to win, but we know he won't be contributing anything on the scoreboard. The question is, how'd he do it?
At a high level, because we know that he's going to be the best player, but this is kind of proof that, hey, this is a good team.
Oh my word, Meteor sort of having a meteoric downfall on that one.
This is honestly a pretty classic Impact game. He soaks up pressure, outplays a dive or two, allows his team to snowball, plays pretty much perfect macro, and then does something crazy like this escape from a 4-man gank at 27 minutes. Definitely enough to warrant a pardon. 100 Thieves are so scared of TL, they just kind of watch them kill their Nexus a few minutes later. If anything, this game was the harbinger of things to come. A warning that pretty soon all of us would be just like 100 Thieves. Locked into an unexpected situation we had no agency in that was equal parts frightening, frustrating, and boring. It went on for what felt like a small eternity and left us with nothing better to do than play lots of League of Legends to pass the time. So all of that detective work leaves us with 4 final suspects. First up from the TCL in 2023, Miru. As a mid laner, he definitely deserves a high level of scrutiny, especially piloting an assassin like Akali. He's also on a tier 1 squad going up against a tier 2 team. However, early on it seems like he's doing his job, going up in CS versus a ranged opponent and hitting this nasty gank escape where he blows 2 flashes. The game settles down for a bit and he finds himself on side lanes very often, last hitting 4 towers in this game alone. Bashik just get Baron very early in the game and use it to end, but Miru isn't there to clean up in the final fight, instead finding himself on Stop the Fiora from backdooring duty. So definitely a stinker from Miru in some ways, but it's hardly a smoking gun. Let's keep going. Second, from the 2019 LPL spring season, it's POS from World Elite. WE, a team on the cusp of making the playoffs, find themselves down 1-0 to Vici Gaming, the worst team in the league. Losing this series would be very bad for their playoff chances, so they draft a very safe teamfighting comp, putting POS on Cannon. What's his role on this team, you might ask? I'll let the casters explain.
With Post, we said, what does he want to do? Well, this time, Post wants to get into the middle of these fights. Normally see him on something like the Sign, but this all layers so nicely together for WE that I get scared if Vici Gaming are caught out of position.
All about execution.
POS very nearly gets on the board within the first minute, flashing just out of range of an auto attack to prevent the execute. But that's the last bit of action we'll see in a long time. POS's crime is repeatedly showing up late for fights, including the game-ending one. As AP Cannon, he ults just 1 time in this game, as the Nexus is falling, which we think is fairly egregious.
Next up, Pause, LJL 2023 Spring, Sengoku Gaming versus Detonation Focus Me. So as I was skimming this VOD trying to find out what Pause actually did in this game, it felt impossible to find any broadcast footage of him doing anything. It seemed like he was just never on camera. So I grabbed a stopwatch to take a closer look and discovered that his case relies on a very literal interpretation of most invisible player. Sengoku destroys DFM in 21 minutes and 56 seconds and pauses on screen for just 2 minutes and 38 seconds, only 12% of the game. Seriously, his longest uninterrupted stretch of screen time was just 28 seconds, and that came as Sengoku was destroying the Nexus. This game went by fast, but neither top laner ever used their TP to enter a fight. They were just in their own little world up there. Now, while this seems like overwhelming evidence, we've got to admit that it's all circumstantial. This honestly borders on an insufficient amount of footage since we never really got to see him play the game. He's definitely still in the running, but if Paz doesn't win Most Invisible Player, he's a shoo-in for Least Visible Player. Our final suspect is similarly mysterious. Some of you may remember Ziv as the player who crushed C9 fans' dreams at the 2015 World Championship on Darius. At least that's how I remember him. 4 years later, he's still running the LMS with AHQ Esports as their franchise player. Taking a look at the scoreboard, for once our 0-0-0 scoreline isn't the weirdest thing about it. As you can see, Wako, AHQ's AD carry, is playing Yuumi bot lane, while their support runs farming Pyke. This Pyke is of course being piloted by the man who started it all, Ysera. How poetic is it that this video starts and ends with Ysera doing weird shit? Now we say that this game is mysterious because all that remains of it is a 7-minute highlight reel, not the full VOD. However, unlike Paz, what little footage we have of Ziv reveals that he got involved early and often. Here he is zoning mad off this dragon at 12 minutes. Ziv just doesn't have the gap closing abilities that his teammates do, and he gets left behind in the chase. He pops his ult trying to get an assist, but Pyke ult, Kate traps, and even a Gragas barrel conspire to prevent it. Poor guy, he is trying so hard. 10 minutes later, he tries again, this time even burning his flash, but he just can't make it in time. Then, in the final fight of the game, he once again ults and steps directly on a trap, preventing him from getting in. Take a look at his face, he's like, dude, why'd you end? I wanted to have some fun too.
So with our final contenders all on the table, what's our very official eCourts Garage verdict? Well, in the case of Ziv, we find him not guilty. Not only was our footage incomplete, but what little we have shows that he was genuinely giving it his all to get in these fights. Next up for Miru, we're also going to find him not guilty.
Paz as well is not guilty. While this is by slim margins, he technically did his job, won his lane, and we didn't get anything close to a comprehensive look at his actual game. Besides, it's not like anyone ever expects fireworks from the Renekton-Cassante matchup.
That leaves us with one final suspect. And so in the case of Paz, we find him guilty. He is the most invisible player in the history of competitive League of Legends. You might think this is harsh. If you do, let us know in the comments. But in our mind, when you pick AP Cannon, you have one job: flash into teamfights, press R, and hit Zony's hourglass if you can. If you're not going to be in teamfights, there's a different cannon build for that. Paz had all the setup you could ever want. He was just never around when it mattered, because his single ult of the game went off as the Nexus exploded. He technically did not complete a single ultimate in the entire game. As the caster said, it's all about execution, and Paz did not execute. Keep in mind that all of this happened against the worst team in the league. WE's playoff chances very well could have rode on that series, and Paz laid an egg when it mattered most. Our other finalists made valid contributions, did their job, or at the very least provided moral support from the background. But we don't think Paz contributed a single valuable thing to his team. He's the only player on this list we can say without a shadow of a doubt was deeply and truly invisible.
So is that it? Well, not exactly. As I was wrapping up writing this script, it just kind of felt like something was missing. You see, when you write a big video essay like this, you're supposed to tie everything together with some sort of big overarching theme, right? A point about, what all this means that ties the story up in a neat little bow. I could feel that connective tissue was missing, I just didn't know where to find it. So I went back through the games and found something that I'd previously overlooked. And to fully understand it, we're gonna need to get extreme. It's 2017 and the final week of the LMS regular season sees Machi Esports taking on a team called Extreme Gamers. Now, all signs point to an extreme action-packed game. They are called the Extreme Gamers after all. Unfortunately, what we get instead is extremely boring. 3 kills to 2 in a 30-minute game that Machi dominates, with Extreme Gamers securing 0 towers or objectives. Not very extreme of them. Because there's no VOD available, this game is MIP ineligible. We can't read too much into D's performance on Varus. Maybe he got bailed out by a zillion ult or 2, but there's no way to know for sure. However, the story does not end there. Just 11 days later in the promotion tournament, Extreme Gamers have their backs against the wall. They lost Game 2 against Machi to close out the regular season, then went 0-2 versus Raze Gaming in round 1 of the promo tournament. Now they've lost their first game to Team Yeti in the elimination round. This is Extreme Gamers' last chance to stay in the LMS. They will need a miracle. Oh look, they did it again. The Extreme Gamers once again find themselves on the wrong end of a PvE game, this time with the added humiliation of actually having more kills than Yeti by the end of it, while still being completely cleaned out in the objectives department. We don't need a VOD to know that this team had extremely bad macro, and that was the end for Extreme Gamers. They would disband after this, meaning that not only was their final match a PvE game, but they're the only team ever to be on the receiving end of one of these games twice, and they did it in less than 2 weeks. This lonely Leaguepedia scoreboard is all that remains. This is their legacy. Or so I thought. I'll confess that I never really planned to talk about this team beyond potentially making a joke about their funny name. They never went 0-0-0, they were just on the receiving end of it 2 weeks in a row. Just a silly footnote in a video that was already silly enough on its own. But something about them made me want to dig deeper, and before I knew it, I found myself on their ancient Facebook page. It turns out that this team was actually forced to disband. Their ownership group, a company called 4Gamers, also happened to be the tournament organizer for the ECS, the secondary league that they had just been relegated to. The team obviously couldn't compete in a league that they ran, so X-Gamers had to go away. This means that the players definitely knew what would happen if they couldn't requalify. At the bottom of their farewell post sits the first and only episode of Silver Knight, their docuseries. I don't speak Chinese, but it looks pretty heartwarming, choosing to focus on the day-to-day lives of their players rather than recapping their games, which in retrospect was a good call. The credits roll lasts well over a minute. It's like they knew it was the end. What I didn't expect was for them to keep posting. Whoever was running their Facebook page just kept on trucking, mostly updates on their former players' journeys in the LMS. Not only did X-Gamers support their former players on socials, they actually worked with LMS teams in an effort to find all their players new homes, even though there was nothing in it for them. Instead of wasting time bringing this talented group of players to the ECS, we decided to go to other teams to keep these players in the LMS. While they may be overselling that talent just a bit, they were the team where Wako, our Yuumi King from earlier, who as of 2026 just wrapped up a very solid 10-year career as an ADC that featured 2 PCS titles and 3 Worlds appearances, got his start. When asked why they weren't constantly cycling through players in a desperate attempt to stay in the LMS, they said, "For XG, it doesn't matter if you make or lose money. Running the team is going to lose money anyway. What matters is whether these players have put their hearts and minds into it." It is no secret that this industry is not having a fantastic time in 2026. Esports winter, budget cuts, dubious sponsors, Tier 2 esports being hollowed out across the globe, and more scandals than you can shake a stick at. Players, staff, and casters all forced to fight each other for leftover scraps of venture capitalist money like crabs in a bucket. In light of all this volatility, it's refreshing to see a team with such pure intentions, to be reminded why we're all here in the first place. Yes, these are weird games, but League of Legends is a weird game. A Dota clone held together with Adobe Air and duct tape, it was never supposed to succeed. And yet, here it stands more than 15 years later. It is broken, it is buggy, it is frustrating, the client lags, the graphics stink. You get a stigma just from playing it, but we don't care. We love this game, and we're gonna keep on playing our silly little MOBA, at least until Riot forgets to update the game's license again. These 0-0 games are not important, they don't have some greater meaning. Not a single one of them has ever been relevant to so much as the outcome of even a domestic split. But honestly, after all of this, do you really give a fuck about how many times someone ults on Kennen? This video only exists in the first place because some anonymous Leaguepedia editor took the time out of their day to create a list of all these games simply because they thought it was interesting. These games are completely arbitrary. They've got problems, but that doesn't mean they aren't special. As of the end of the 2025 season, there have been 124,271 professional games logged on Leaguepedia, and millions upon millions played by regular folks like you and me. With over 170 champions, every game is unique and totally unpredictable. These PvE games tell the story of what League of Legends really is, and if their stories have taught you anything, it's that no matter what your scoreline, no matter how small your contribution, you played a role in all this. The fact that we're lucky enough to still be around 15 years later to witness these weird, wonderful quirks of our sport is cause for celebration on its own. Extreme Gamer's final post was made on the floor of the LMS studio before their former players Wako, Zest, and LBB faced off in the spring of 2018. They asked any XG fans watching the game to comment "Yo," the name of one of their former players. And a year after this god-awful team disbanded, 21 people still showed up to say "Yo." It reminds Julian and I to ask ourselves, how lucky are we to get to cover this game for a living? Not only do we work for the LCS, a childhood dream of mine come true, but we run a moderately successful YouTube channel where we scream into the void about obscure League of Legends games from 10 years ago, and somehow you all show up to say "Yo," in many cases long after you stop playing the game yourself. It's probably been years since anyone has seen or even thought about this team, so I just wanted to say, on behalf of us all, thank you Extreme Gamers for all you did for the LMS, even if it was only stuff like Nexus to YE Spider. At the end of Silver Knight's credits, XG leaves us with a simple yet powerful message. Team up, fight on. And you know what? I think that's a message that we can all learn from.